would run for an average of 1 hour 15, 1 hour 30 minutes. And then we'll proceed to the Q&A, which we've created ample time for, to run for approximately 30 to 45 minutes. And we hope that we can get everyone out of here by 12 noon at the latest. Again, that's just before lunchtime. And I must say it's deliberate because we don't intend to serve lunch. So just before lunchtime, we would hope to get everyone, we hope to be done with this session and get everyone out of here. Before I proceed to my initial comments and invite the guest speaker, I'd want to recognize the presence of our chief executive, the CEO of the bank, Wale Adeniyi. Thank you very much for joining in. We appreciate your support. We appreciate your presence at this forum. We know you do have conflicting, yes, and that's him on the screen. You do have conflicting, should I say, appointments, but you've made it a duty to be here today. Thank you so very much. We really appreciate it. And I'd also want to recognize the presence of our executive director, Eric Fajemisi, also, who is also on the call. I want to say a big thank you also for joining in and for your support in this regards. And to everyone, thank you for joining in. So my initial comments around this, and again, it's to position or provide what I can call the context for those who may not have followed it more closely in terms of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. So the agreement was signed in early 2018, and it's aimed at promoting the free movement of businesses, people, goods, and investment across Africa, which is a market of 1.2 billion people with a combined GDP of $3.4 trillion. The operational phase of the agreement was launched by the Extraordinary Africa Union Summit in 2019, July thereabout in 2019 in Niger. And currently we do have 54 African countries that have signed the agreement, while 37 countries have deposited their instruments of ratification with the depository, which is the African Union Commission Chair. And a key milestone was achieved early this year when on the 1st of January 2021, trading under the agreement kicked off. Now, the guest speaker would delve into the details, the technicalities, and what progress really has happened in that space. But I think it's important to highlight that the agreement itself represents a historic agreement that has the potential to completely transform the economic and social profile of the continent. While it's fully implemented, we believe that it's going to be the largest, which is the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, will be the largest free trade zone in the world. And without a doubt, represents the biggest business opportunity in the continent's history. We believe the agreement holds great promise for the continent and most importantly for Nigeria as one of the largest economies on the continent. And why we think that is because when you look at intra-Africa trade, or what we call regional trade integration today from an African standpoint, despite the gains we have seen over recent years, the best estimate of intra-Africa trade currently stands at 17%, which is a far cry from the intra-regional trade share of, let's say, the European Union, which is at 64%, or the USMCA, which used to be the United States, Canada, and Mexico Free Trade Area Agreement, which stands roughly at 50%. We believe that if successful, the Africa Continental Free Trade Area is expected to boost intra-Africa trade beyond the levels of 17%, which is currently today, and will in turn promote industrialization and economic growth. Multiple studies have shown that increase in trade has a direct impact on reducing unemployment and poverty in the markets. So notwithstanding the massive challenges that Nigeria and other African countries have suffered as a result of the multi-trade periods resulting from the COVID-19 pandemic, we believe that the trade opportunities presented by this agreement is both exciting and promising, not just for the continent at large, but specifically for our market, Nigeria, and our clients and investors who will be interested in our market. And we believe that indeed for Stanbic IBTC, the opportunities are significant and they do abound. And I'm confident today that our guest speaker will talk more on these and share a lot of his insights on this area. And more importantly, around how we can partner our clients, be them SMEs, corporates, investors, and leverage this framework to unlock opportunities with our chosen clients. So on that note, I want to say welcome again to this seminar and thank you for joining. Since we do have Wale and Eric, and I know this wasn't pre-agreed, I don't know whether you have initial thoughts or comments you want to pass to the audience before we go into introducing the speaker and have him have his presentation.
Please go ahead. It's a big opportunity for us, and we really want to ensure that we tap into it and bring in our clients to tap into the opportunity as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Wale.
Thanks, Jesse. So please go ahead. As Wale has said, we are here to learn. We are not preaching.
Thanks so very much. So on that note, I'll move this along to introduce our guest speaker for today. Wale, can we please have the profile? Okay, thank you. So our guest speaker is Mr. Bamidele Ayemibo, and he's the lead consultant at 3T Impex Trade Academy, which is the foremost trade consulting company in Nigeria, and has a rare combination of expertise in international trade finance, trade rules, banking, and trade execution. He set up the first international trade center in Nigeria, where corporates and bankers receive trade education and tutorials. Bamidele is a member of the International Chamber of Commerce ICC Working Group on Trade Digitalization and Blockchain, as part of the ICC Commission on Customs and Trade Facilitation. He is a facilitator at the Lagos Business School, an export business mentor on the UK8 PDF2 export mentoring program, and is also the former chairman export group at the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Bamidele holds a master's degree in international business with law from Salford University, United Kingdom, and is a PhD researcher in international marketing with the LIJS University, Hawaii, United States of America. He currently facilitates international trade finance trainings for the Central Bank of Nigeria, Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria, CIBN, and commercial banks in Nigeria. I want to welcome Dele, and I want to yield the floor to you.
All right, thank you very much, Jason, and thank you very much, everyone, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm happy you were able to make this happen. I remember having this conversation with you, I think it was sometimes in July, about what we noticed as a business regarding the involvement of bank in the conversation around AfCFTA in Nigeria. I've attended quite a number of events organized by government and private sector, and I realized that the people that will fund the transaction are not always present, maybe because they are not inviting you or the invitation is getting to the wrong hands. So we decided to start a seminar. We believe strongly that if AfCFTA is going to be successful, the business people must be aware. And the only way they will be aware is if the banks are able to inform their customers. I mean, the bank have access to all the customers, so they will probably be able to help to inform the customer on what they need to do to take advantage of AfCFTA. And we realize that if we can get the message across to banks, then we're sure to get across to the customers, because most free trade agreements that have failed in the world have been basically because of inadequate information on the part of the practitioners who are going to be utilizing this free trade agreement. And we had example already under the ETLS. For those of you that are familiar with ETLS, a type of free trade agreement within the West Africa, that's ECOWAS Trade Liberalization Scheme, it has not been very successful. We have just about, it's been over 30 years. And I'm not sure we have up to 1,000 companies in Nigeria that have registered, and many are not even maximizing those potentials that are available under that agreement. And we thought that it would be necessary to be able to get the customer informed. But we don't have access to the customer, but we know banks, because of the extensive reach within the country, have access to those customers. And particularly for banks like yours with a number of branches across Africa, that become a great advantage we think can really be explored. So today I'll be looking at understanding the potential and maximize the opportunity for customers under the AfCFTA. So I have 8 things to talk about. I have a preamble, just basically talking about what AfCFTA is all about, really. Then the performance. And by performance, I mean, how have we fared? What have we been able to do as a country in terms of trade? What have we been able to do in terms of trade as a country, particularly on the African continent, Then potentials. What are the opportunities available? What are the products that we can ship, that we can export under the AfCFTA, the process? Some of us are already familiar with the current export process. What we change in the export process based on AfCFTA, particularly on the African continent. Then the propensities. What are the implications? The implication of this agreement on our economy, on different sectors of the economy. Man have done research, and I'll be talking about the summary of that research of what they feel will be the impact in the short term and in the long term on our economy. Then the problems. And I'll be emphasizing here the problem as regard financing exports, and why many banks shy away from financing, and why those that have tried to finance have some issues, and how we can avoid those issues going forward. And then, of course, other concerns of AfCFTA. Then the preparation, my recommendation on what I think the bank need to begin to do to be able to prepare to maximize the potential, help the customers, and also create a lot of value for the organization. And the profit, talking about the benefit to our customers, and of course to the bank. Now the preamble. Understanding the concept of AfCFTA. For those of us that are familiar with the theory of economic integration, you know, free trade area is just a step in the theory of economic integration. The plan is to move to custom union, to eventually move to common market, economic union, just to be able to get to the point where we have the type that European Union have. Probably at that time, we have a single currency on the African continent. That's the goal, actually. And that's based on the Agenda 2063 of when OAU, now AU, become 100 years. The AfCFTA is an initiative developed pursuant to Abuja Treaty, signed in 1991. This was why people were very shocked, worried, and disturbed that Nigeria did not sign. You know, Nigeria earlier did not sign AfCFTA. The president was actually about going to Rwanda to sign when that was on a Sunday evening when the civil society organization went out on the press everywhere to talk about the fact that the government should not sign, giving reason for that. And of course, when their concern were addressed, then they agreed for the president. So the president eventually signed in Niger before the program eventually started. Officially trading started January 2021. It was supposed to start July last year, but because of COVID, was pushed to January 2021. The objective of the treaty was to strengthen regional economic communities like ECOWAS, EAC, SADC, COMESA, and the like, different regional economic communities in Africa, and to establish the free trade area, and also a common national tariff and common market. So ultimately, the plan is to have a common national tariff within a custom union. Free trade area means that we have broken down the wall of barriers to trade by removing tariff. But for custom union, we are having a common national tariff. That means every country in Africa, we have the same custom tariff. Irrespective of what you are bringing into Africa and the country's entry into, you'll be paying the same tariff. And then common market, we'll be able to have people moving, free movement of person, capital, goods, services across the continent. So the plan basically is to have a single market on the African continent. So we have had preferential trade agreement we've had AGOA. AGOA is a type of a free trade agreement, but a unilateral one from America, Africa Growth Opportunity Act. But now we have the free trade agreement, which is a type like AfCFTA or ETLS. So like I said, the goal is to have one single custom union with a common external tariff, and then common market, free mobility of factor of production, and probably ultimately economic union. Now, this agreement have 6 protocols or 6 components, if you call it. The agreement that has been signed now covers phase 1. Phase 2 is being negotiated and yet to be concluded. Phase 1 have protocol on trading goods with a lot of annexes, like you can see below. Also, protocol on trading services. Protocol on trading services with a number of annexes, like you can see below. Then, protocol on rule and procedure for dispute resolution. Hopefully, we won't have to close our border again. Now that we have all signed, 54 African countries have signed, if there is an injurious trade practices from one country to the other, how do we resolve the issue? Now we have a way to sort that out under the dispute resolution mechanism. The phase 2 has to do with protocol on competition policy, protocol on intellectual property, and on investment. That is being negotiated. So now that the first phase has been negotiated and signed, that is what we're going with or working with right now. The protocol on trading goods, services, and investment, property right, and policy are different components of this agreement. Trading goods aim to boost intra-African trade through progressive elimination of tariff and non-tariff barriers, enhance efficiency of custom procedure, and trade facilitation and transit. It seeks to facilitate trading goods via enhanced cooperation in area of technical barriers to trade, sanitary and phytosanitary measures, as well as development of continental value chain. Now, the idea basically is Africa have all the opportunities to become major economy in the world because of the market we have. But unfortunately, we have not been able to maximize that market because we don't do business with ourselves, unfortunately. We don't do business with ourselves, unfortunately. But hopefully, with this agreement, we can begin to do business with ourselves, having removed the wall. Now, there are concerns for AfCFTA. Concerns like Nigeria is the largest market. People are going to come into our market. They're going to take over our market. We are going to become a dumping ground. I mean, it's going to destroy our economy. So many concerns, valid concerns. But what is also important with state is this agreement is not a forced marriage. You have opportunity for divorce if you so desire. So the first thing is we can pull out if you feel after some years it's not good for our economy. But more importantly is that countries are given the opportunity to decide and say, look, there are segments of our economy we don't want to liberalize. We want to liberalize some, but some will be no-go area. So there is this tariff schedule expected to be submitted by different countries. Because ECOWAS is already a trade union, a custom union, the countries sat together and submitted a unified front. But the idea basically is this. If I want to export to Rwanda, I need to first know what are the products Rwanda we allow into its country duty-free. It's called the non-sensitive list. So out of about 5,000 plus HS code in the world, 90% is duty-free. 90% should be duty-free. So a country will decide that's about 4,500 HS code of product duty-free. Then the second list is called the sensitive list. The sensitive list says we can liberalize this product, but not immediately, but over a period of 10 years. So if the duty of this product now is about 20%, next year it will be 18, then 16, then 14, then 12, till it becomes 0 over a period of 10 years. But the exclusive list says no way. We are not liberalizing this one. Why? We are not liberalizing this one because we want to protect that sector of our economy. It's fragile. The players there are not strong. It's new. We are trying to, over time, we probably can liberalize and choose to. But for now, these are the area we want to protect. So the idea basically is that we shouldn't have an agreement that's supposed to make us grow, and then the agreement become the undoing of the African economy. No. In addition to this, there is the concept of rule of origin, which I will talk about later on. The rule of origin also is to ensure that a Chinese manufacturer cannot smuggle his goods through Morocco, repackage it as African product, and ship it to Nigeria. In fact, the government is setting up a particular agency that will help with trade remedy to ensure that we have a countermeasure against individuals that are doing that to us. Countervailing duties for dumping activities or any injurious trade practice from any country. So there's a rule of origin that's supposed to protect that, which I'll be talking about later on. So like Jason said, 54 countries have signed. 22 needed to ratify for it to start, but thanks enough, 37 have ratified. Actually, 37 have deposited the ratification instrument. 40 have ratified. But the three of the 40 are yet to deposit their ratification instrument with the AU. So, and this is as at July, according to TRILAC, as at July 7, 2021. So here are the countries that ratified. You can see Nigeria somewhere there. Nigeria signed late, so we just ratified. That's the reason why we've not been able to start trading. Well, the whole process is being finalized, and the government also is developing a portal that will be used for the registration of product and businesses that want to trade under AfCFTA. So, and it was 5th of December last year that Nigeria submitted the ratification instrument to the AU Commission in Addis Ababa. Performance. So how have we fared? How has been the trade in Nigeria generally? I've always maintained that one of the sectors of the economy we really cannot joke with, that we really must take seriously, particularly in financing, is trade. I tell marketers, you know, we have this seminar that we do for marketers sometimes ago on trade-driven deposit mobilization and income generation. And I'm saying that, look, if Nigeria economy is just a little above 400 billion, and over 120 billion is on trade, that's a lot. 62.5, I'm not using COVID, 2020 is an abnormal year, so I'm not using the figure of 2020. You can see that it's no side because of oil and the like. But for 2019, 62.5 export, 55.2 import, a lot. And this is why I said, you know, when I see importers that are having issue with foreign exchange, and I'm asking myself, why will you be having issue with foreign exchange when you can export to generate forex? Because when you look at that list, you realize that majority of the 55 billion are private sector import. Majority of the 62.5 are mainly federal government, oil, 85% of that, mainly oil and gas. So that means the non-oil is just about 15%. That 15% is not enough to fund most of the import we do into Nigeria. That's why we depend on CBN. And I tell exporter, an importer who import, for example, who import battery into Nigeria, can actually discover that he can be generating his foreign exchange by exporting lead ore or lead ingot to the manufacturer of the battery. So why will an importer queue up for forex when some of the raw material of his manufacturer or supplier are in Nigeria? You know, it seems sometimes common sense is not common. I feel as banker we can educate our customer, because an average importer is a ready exporter. A number of them travel frequently, so they really can do this. They just need to a little change of orientation. For example, we do a lot of certification, seminar registration and training for certification, professional certifying in trade in Nigeria. and they have to pay in forex, and they pay us in naira, and we use the naira to export, and the forex generated what we use to pay the fees for the exams they are doing with London School of Banking and Finance and American Institute of Extended Studies. So I'm basically talking about what we currently do for our customers and for our students that want to write certification. So basically an importer can do the same. It's just to have that orientation, because so basically I'm saying if you have an importer, you can also get them to begin to do export with you. They just need a little training and not some orientation to be able to know how to be able to make that work for themselves. If you look at the the data again, you notice that manufactured goods take a good chunk of export from Nigeria. Understandably so. Understandably so. Understandably so, because even though Nigeria ship a lot of agri products, what we earn from it is so meager, so small. What do I mean? If you export cocoa, the market size for cocoa in the world is about $9 billion. Guess the market size for chocolate. Chocolate demand in the world is about $30 billion. Who is making money? The man doing cocoa, and by the way, 75% of that is from West Africa. Even though China wants to take a share of that now, China is now exporting cocoa to Europe. China hired some Ghanaian, took them to China to grow cocoa in China. It was a 4 to 5 year project. Today, China is exporting cocoa, competing with West Africa. West Africa supplies 75% of cocoa in the world. That's just about maybe $7 billion out of the $9 billion. But look at it. The Netherlands, Germany, who are producing chocolate, UK, US, they are the ones sharing the remaining $30 billion. So who is making money really? The person doing commodity or the person doing manufactured goods? So if you look at this chart, this is Nigerian export to different regions in the world. Agriculture export to Africa, you can see so small. Now, this for me is very instructive. Customers that will thrive in Africa under AfCFTA must know that what they will sell is not going to be mainly agri products, commodities, no. It's going to be value-added agro-processed or manufactured goods. Because many African countries are probably worse than Nigeria in terms of production capacity. So they're not really doing a lot of manufacturing. So they import a lot. Because they import a lot, we really cannot export commodity to them because they don't have anything used for it. Look at what we are shipping to America. But look at what we are shipping to Asia. You can see European and Asian are the ones buying their Greek. But look at where our value-added manufacturing is going to. West African countries, Central African countries. AfCFTA is going to make this to become a lot more. A lot more. And these are data basically based on the data released by the National Bureau of Statistics. Now, COVID made amazing revelation. Not unexpected anyway. Now, I do this seminar every week on AfCFTA by 5 p.m., maximizing the potential of African market under AfCFTA on Zoom every Thursday by 5 p.m. Today, we'll be looking at Morocco. We started from Algeria, Angola, down to Zimbabwe, but we're currently at Morocco. We did Mauritius last week and Mauritania upper week. And I discovered, I made some outstanding discovery in the course of this exploratory for me also, because in the bid to do those seminars every week, I have to do some research about these countries. And I found out that, of course, many African countries are low income, less than $1,000 per annum by an average person in that country, low income. Few are middle income, lower middle income, and some also are upper middle, like Mauritius, for example. Now, lower middle income, Nigeria is lower middle income, but majority are in the low income. Because they are low income countries with serious inflation like Nigeria, the people are living for survival. And that became obvious on the consumption component of the GDP. about 60 to 70, sometimes 80, 90% of the consumption component of GDP is not government consumption, it's household consumption. Number one. Number two, the population of those countries, young population below 25 years are usually 60% and above. For many African countries I've reviewed on that seminar. 60% and above. It's obvious that Africans are living for survival. What we tried in terms of sales under AfCFTA are the same thing that human beings were buying more during COVID. Who are the winners during COVID? Medical supply and services, food processing and retail, personal healthcare and healthcare products, ICT, e-commerce, agri. These were what people were buying. You can see the losers on the other side. So this for me is a very, so if a customer is trying to go into African market, question I'm asking is, are you selling fast-moving consumer goods? What are you selling? Are you selling what an average person will buy? Because that's one of the things that we work and thrive under AfCFTA. Other products are going to be sold, of course, but these are going to take the center stage in terms of what people are going to demand. And other research have validated that. Other research, according to Economics Intelligence Unit, this research was tracking what African retail stores were selling between 2011 and 2013 and 16. And you can see beverages and retail, food, beverages, and tobacco. Can you see the growth? Unlike furniture, houseware, cleaning, clothing, footwear, and the like. Food, beverages, taking the lead retail product in general in terms of what people are buying. So Nigeria is already selling to other African countries. I can see here ECOWAS and other African countries. And Nigeria is the second largest exporter right now in Africa, next to South Africa, but the gap is very wide when you look at the population difference between the two countries. Like this Jane was saying about intra-African trade, you know, who are the people enjoying the benefit of African population? Europeans, Americans, Asians. Inter-African trade in Africa is about 17. It's not interesting to you. EU, population of about 500 million, actually less than 500 million, controls about 33% of trade in the world. But about 70% of that trade is intra-EU trade. What is the population? Less than 500 million. Africa, with a population of 1.2 billion people. 1.2 billion people is contributing how much to trade in the world? Look at it, 2.6%. 2.6%. The world trade, by the way, is about 18 to 19 trillion, 18.8, 18.9 trillion. World trade is actually a quarter of the world GDP. World GDP is about 80 trillion, and world trade is about 18 trillion. Out of that 18 trillion, Africa is contributing 2.5, 2.6%. Why? Intra-African trade is just about 17%. 17%. 17% of what trade Africa is doing. Asia, 49%. Latin America, 22%. So AfCFTA provides the opportunity for Africans to enjoy the benefit of its population. Let's move on to the potential. The potential. There's a huge potential for manufactured goods under the AfCFTA. Huge potential for manufactured goods. I did a research to check what can Nigerian export that African currently import. And I found about 90 products. This product, we might not have been doing it so much before because maybe because of duty and the like. But now we can do it because the duty has been removed for many of these products. That means we can trade on this product under AfCFTA, particularly knowing fully well that 90% of the traded tariff list in the world will be fully liberalized. So these are low-hanging fruit. Let's check out some of those products and the market size. According to AfCFTA, these are products with untapped potential: fruits, beverages, cereals, vegetables, metals, apparel, paper products, ferrous metal, sugar, fertilizer, plastic, chemical, beauty and cosmetics, other foods, mineral products. Mineral products are basically crude. You know, we see export crude to ourselves within Africa, and that's a lot, actually. Now, look at this. Look at this. Can you see the market size of import of petrol, PMS, by Africa? $30 billion. This was about, as of 2018. Cars, $14.8 billion. Wheat, $12.3 billion. Crude oil, $11.3 billion. Drugs, $8.6 billion. Gas, $7.1 billion. Raw sugars, $6.8 billion. Can you imagine palm oil? $5.1 billion. Palm oil. Rice, $4.7 billion. Insulated wires, $3.5 billion. Sugarcane, $3.2. Fish, non-fillet fish, $3.1. Gold, $3.0. Pesticide, $2.3. You will notice a good chunk of these products are FMCG products. Poultry, $2.0. Furniture, $1.8. Footwear, $1.8. Malt extract, $1.7. Co-briquette is charcoal made from sawdust or other organic matter, $1.7. The one they burn at a Ebute Metta, when you go on Third Mainland, you see that place they burn sawdust. That same sawdust they burn off and burn off to create space for new sawdust. 1.7. Cement, 1.6. Plastic leaf, 1.6. Centered 1.6. Soybeans, $1.4 billion. Meat, frozen meat, 1.2 billion. The same product costing us in Nigeria. Frozen bovine. It's amazing. This is in terms of the challenges, in terms of the opportunities rather available under AfCFTA. Frozen bovine, dry legume, plastic pipes. Now, AfCFTA have the potential to change this narrative. Look at the narrative. In 2019 rather, crude oil plus gas constitute 84%. 84%. A whopping 84% of export from Nigeria out of the $63.8 billion. Can you see all other things just on one side? Because these other things, they are value-added manufactured goods. They are the ones that will have potential under AfCFTA, that will be able to sell. But that's what we currently are not doing so much in. And I feel AfCFTA have the potential to help us grow that sector. Now, let's look at the process. What we changed? The export process as we know it will be modified under AfCFTA. If you are currently familiar with ETLS, you know that, of course, we've talked about the concept of the rule of origin. Now, with the concept of the rule of origin under ETLS, you need to have a certificate of origin that says that this product is an originating product. That means it's produced in Nigeria. So, for example, if your customer wants to take advantage of AfCFTA, number one, they need to be registered as a company in Nigeria and register on the AfCFTA platform currently being developed by the Ministry of Trade and Investment. To register on that platform, of course, you need to have TIN number, you need to have CAC, Limited Liability Company, and it must have export as one of the objectives with export license. Having registered on that platform, the next thing will be to register each of your products. So for the customer to register the product will either be, it must be an originating product, either by virtue of wholly produced product in Africa. A wholly produced product in Africa is a product that have at least 60% of the raw materials sourced on the African continent. Listen to that. Some of our customers, we need to rework their supply chain if they are going to be able to take advantage of AfCFTA. For example, companies that are into pasta, noodles, that import a lot of wheat from South America and North America, we have to rework their supply chain. Else, they won't be able to trade under AfCFTA. They won't be able to trade under AfCFTA. So check your customer that import raw materials. If 60% of the raw materials from outside of African continent, that product will not be the originating product. You know why? The idea of this agreement is to help solve 3 of the SDG goals: reduce poverty, reduce hunger, reduce inequality. Because this agreement is supposed to increase business among African countries, such that businesses can hire more staff, grow capacity to supply more to other African countries, creating more jobs, increasing employment, and reducing poverty. If we don't achieve that, AfCFTA is useless. So if we are now going to be using raw material from other countries to produce, we are creating jobs for farmers in those countries. It doesn't make sense. So you either keep importing and sell in your local market and not be able to sell in African country, or you find African country that can produce that product, partner with them, even set up a farm in those countries that can produce efficiently and produce there, then source from other continents outside Africa. If any business do that, that business will not be able to partake in AfCFTA. Some of our customers that are into assembly, they will be an advantage because they will become value addition. Value addition. So they bring in the parts, source some part locally, and then assemble. That will be value addition. So, but for them to benefit about the CIF value of the product must increase by 30%. That means after they finish assembling, the X works of that product. So I brought in a lot of different components. That component I brought in is about, maybe it cost me $1,000 to assemble a car. That car, when I finish assembling, when I add the cost of local product, the cost of staff, labor, the cost of fund, and other costs I incur, the X worth of that product must not be less than about 20 to 30%, depending on the nature of the product, of the initial value. Maybe it should be now 1,300 cost price, X factory. Then I will not put my profit on it. That's value addition. Processing, not value addition. Now, if I do that value addition, I'll talk to processing later. Processing has to do with agree. I'll come to processing later. If I do that value addition I've done must show that I have significantly increased the value of that good from where it used to be. Now, I could do processing. I brought in a product that was under a tariff hedge, maybe 0004. When I finish processing it, it's now 0014 or 15. The tariff hedge, the first 4 digits of the HS code change by virtue of the change in nature of the product. I bring in lumber, wood, I convert it to furniture, tariff hedge will change. I bring in concentrate, chemical, concentrate, orange concentrate, I convert it to orange juice, tariff hedge is changing. If the tariff heading is not changing, I have not processed. There must be a substantial processing happening. Now, I'm trying to talk about this detail because our customers need to be aware that, look, if I'm going to enjoy, so some of our customers that already sold their raw material locally or processing locally, and this is happening to them, they are already at an advantage. But those that are not, might not be able to take place. Now, those people that are able to meet the criteria for wholly produced product, value-added product, or processed goods are the one that will get the certificate of origin. Certificate of origin. This certificate of origin will be issued by a national committee. Currently, we have a committee for ETL that does that. But now they're automating the process. So you will submit, you fill the form, there's a very comprehensive form online, submit, the committee will visit the factory and ascertain this before making recommendation. So AU will not come and check and discover that they made a mistake or not doing right. So they will visit the factory, see that indeed this product meet the criteria, make recommendation for the issuance of certificate of origin. So that product, for EFLA to issue it now, the certificate of origin obtained will be part of the pre-export processing. The copy will be attached and placed online for this TRMS platform of CBN, and to be part of the original sent to the importer's country on the post-export documentation. Now, not all manufactured products will be eligible for duty-free access in the African continent. Not all manufactured products. Those that will be eligible will need to be compliant with the requirement of rule of origin under AfCFTA. To be able to comply with the rule of origin, your product has to be wholly produced as a manufacturer, substantially processed, or value added on the African soil. This means manufacturers will need to look into their production process for their business operation again and do the required reworking of the supply chain in order to benefit from the AfCFTA. The reworking of supply chain might require the need to begin to source raw material from within the African continent or fund the production of raw material in Africa. This might involve forming necessary alliance or set up an entity in the country where raw material can be obtained on the African continent. To take advantage of the AfCFTA, an exporter needs to examine the African market to know where his products are in high demand, investigate the market to know the packaging and labeling requirements, make necessary adjustments in the product quality and packaging, also ascertain the language requirement for the product labeling and make necessary amendments, and investigate and do necessary registration where required with local authority in the target market. The propensities. What are the implications of AfCFTA on our economy? According to research done by MAN, this was to convince themselves and convince the government on what they want the government to do to support them. In the short term, it is expected that the method of AfCFTA will call a decline in revenue of government, decline in GDP and government saving, decline in the balance of trade in Africa as import will outgrow export, but it will partially be offset by a rise in price of import due to rising demand. A decline in consumer price due to import, which will cause a lower inflation, significant increase in import, and this is expected to be significant across most manufacturing subsectors in Nigeria, especially those ones that have tariff of 20 and 10% that will be liberalized fully within 10 years. Still in the short term, investment and hence employment is expected to be seen in this sector. Growth in paper printing and publishing, base metal, steel and non-metallic, textile, apparel and footwear, chemical and pharmaceutical. On the other hand, we expect decline to happen in wood and wood products, electrical and electronics, motor vehicles assembly, food, beverages, tobacco, plastic, and rubber. Now, in the long run, it's expected that agri trade will rise on the continent, both import and export. Manufacturing goods will also rise. Interest rates are likely going to rise due to high demand for credit to satisfy export demand, but will modulate in the long term as foreign investment increase in response to rise in rates. The exchange rate will be pressured in the short term as import will grow faster than export, but in the long term, it appreciates as demand stabilizes. An increase in production and service capacity and trade within and outside Africa will also create jobs. Ease of person services capital will eventually result in from AfCFTA will provide improve productivity and specialization through improved mobility of skill. Now, how about the problems? What are the challenges? Now, what's the interest of the bank? It's funding. And I'm talking about that. I realized a number of banks in Nigeria, understandably so, are weary of financing export, understandably so. But I've maintained that we really cannot finance what we don't understand. If you understand the history of Nigerian bank, we've come a long way in importation. We've made a lot of mistakes and we have mastered importation. So we learn importation financing by experience through losses. We can avoid that with export. If only we just increase the level of knowledge available to the staff in terms of underwriting the credit, reviewing it, and being able to ensure, to be able to know when an export credit is a good one, either pre or post, or it's a bad one. And I'll talk about that shortly. But there are other problems. There are concerns about if Nigeria is ready. I get that question all the time, and I always answer politically, yes and no. I use the word politically because I say yes because Nigeria already exports to African countries without AfCFTA. So in a way, we are ready to some extent. We are not fully ready because we signed late, and a number of things that government needs to put in place, they are just putting in. Government recently released $50 billion to the Ministry of Trade and NEPC to support the exporter. And indeed, they are working on that. I happen to be one of the enablers that review exporters that apply for that grant. And I can say categorically that exporters are going to be supported to be able to trade in Africa under AfCFTA. So to some extent, government is doing some things. We signed late. That's why we have not started trading, because we just ratified in December and our African instruments have not yet been approved. People talk about our competitiveness. And I say, in Africa, Nigeria is still better off than many African countries. No, even though we have our issues, and I will not shy away from our issues, we have our challenges. So I will not deny the fact that we have challenges. I just sometimes choose to look at the positive side. The fact that we still have many countries that Nigeria are better off in Africa in terms of competitiveness index that make us a lot better. That's why we could export under AfCFTA manufactured goods. And I feel if we're already exporting, even though it's challenging for a number of businesses, I think we will be able to do it a lot more now under the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. And with the, one of the challenges of trade in Africa is transport. And there is this Sea Link project, I don't know if you are aware of it, being done by Nexim Bank in conjunction with the private sector. Vessels being purchased to be able to carry goods across West Africa, Central Africa. And I asked the particular guy in charge in Nexim, and he said they're actually now, because of AfCFTA, looking at Southern Africa and East Africa. But currently, they're already finalizing. They will have started last year, but could not. They discovered they wanted good coming from the north, not to get to Lagos. They want good coming from the north, not to get to Lagos. So there is a particular port in somewhere in Kogi State. So they are dredging the lower Niger right now, funded by not the federal government agencies are supposed to do it because they're not doing their job. Nexim is funding that project so that vessels can come to Lokoja and be able to pick up goods from the north, and then to Lagos and Port Harcourt, pick up goods and be able to traverse West Africa. This Sea Link project being done by Nexim is a private sector initiative. So it's been on for a while and they are almost at the concluding stage right now. So I believe that will ease movement of goods to some extent, actually, within the West Africa. But in terms of competitiveness, even in West Africa, Nigeria is not doing badly. But, I always don't like comparing us with other African countries because I felt we shouldn't even be comparing ourselves with other African countries, but we still have a basis for comparison anyway because we're all in Africa. So Nigeria is still better off than at least 4 countries. This is based on Competitiveness Index report as of 2019. But that's not to say that we don't have issue with corruption. We don't have issue with, we have issue with inflation and of course the challenge of the ease of doing business. Now, typically export business have challenge with product pricing, purchasers, paperwork and payment. By payment, I mean finance. One of the things a bank needs to do is to grow capacity to support exporters across this chain. Across this chain. You know, when we are marketing customers, sometimes we think they only need financing. For example, I gave you the example of the importers. Importers, some of them have cash. They need Forex. They need support services around product, around pricing, around purchasers, around paperwork. Some of them don't need financing. You can significantly grow your trade volume by building capacity. These are when we did there was a program that the UKA did some years back, and bankers were being told by experts that beyond financing, we need you to support us, advise us, help us, as in beyond financing. And we call that what we call the evolving or emerging support services of bank to exporters. Beyond, and you know, I know banks like yours also do those kind of seminars. For SME, you do seminar for them on how to keep their books. You do seminar for them on how to manage their business. Why? You feel if they are successful, you are successful. I feel we can take the same initiative to export, to educate the importers, train them, or support services, whereas they can walk into your branches. That means you probably have export champion in different branches who can answer their questions as far as export is concerned, not just in financing, but across other areas. Let's now talk about financing. Why do banks have bad debt in export financing? Why do banks have bad debt? Bad debt could result from delays. Bad debt could result from demurrage, delays. We don't understand delay. Demurrage. Demurrage is the fee paid for the usage of container beyond the free period while the container is in the custody of the shipping line. Demurrage. Discrepancies. Some of us are familiar with that. Issues with document discrepancies between the document presented and the expected document for payment. Defeasible export structure financing. You know, sometimes we need to do structured trade finance, which I strongly advocate for, that, you know, if we keep looking for tangible collateral for financing, we'll be able to really maximize the potential of export finance in Nigeria. If you look at tangible collateral, rather than focusing on trade finance instruments to protect ourselves and minimize our risk. So most of the processes are not feasible. Diversion of goods, diversion of fund or proceeds, debt of knowledge, ignorance, lack of capacity among the people. You know, look at this. Look at the next slide. The next slide talks about the pillar of trade finance. Banks don't joke with trade payment facilitation. Banks don't joke with trade risk mitigation. Banks don't joke with trade finance product, with develop product paper. But when it comes to trade information flow, which is the pillar of monitoring, that's where we are lacking. When I hear stories of issues with export finance, bad debt in export finance, 8 to 9 out of 10 times I discover it is because of lack of capacity to monitor. Even if the head office have the skill, what happens to the branches? What happens to the people on the field? Lack of capacity, particularly when you're doing structured trade finance. Because every day, the reality of that transaction is changing. The reality is changing every day from beginning to the end. So you have the initial static information and you have the ongoing dynamic information. Depth of knowledge, defectiveness of the goods. Sometimes the quality is bad. The quality is bad. So what are we focusing on? Trade information flow. Now, to be able to effectively do the trade information flow and monitor financing, here are some of the pillars of export finance monitoring. Information, independence, interrogation, integration, indicators, inspection, and incoterms. These are important pillars that if they are not followed, engaged, utilized, we will have issue with that export financing. You know, I was doing this training on this monitoring of trade finance for a bank some time ago, and the DMD of the bank made a comment. He said, Dele, we were bitten by snake. Now, when we see earthworm, we run away. And what he was trying to say is that they've had issue in the past. And because of the issue they've had in the past, now They don't want to finance. Why? And it's basically because of knowledge gap. Knowledge gap, particularly at the level of the branches, individuals who are going to be the one to monitor those trade finance transactions. So here are some of the recommendations on pre-export financing underwriting model. In arriving at, and in this particular model, there is a score that you can use to know, okay, if the companies, if after your analysis, the companies score above this number, there is a set of questions, about 32 questions, 42 questions for pre and 32 questions for post, that need to be answered, either based on the information provided, all the documents are available to this customer, the customer made available. Review the promoters, the product, the pricing, the purchasers, the paperwork, the policy, the payment, the partners, and protection. All this need to be reviewed. And the reason why I feel this is important is, if we don't finance exports under AfCFTA, we're not going to go anywhere. Because trade only grows in any economy because there are financing. But if there is apathy towards financing, sincerely, you can, like I say, why are we signing in the first place? I feel these are issues that the bank needs to fix. How about the post? The post is a bit lesser, but there are risks with post. But it's lesser in terms of what you need to review because the goods have already been shipped. Still promoter, the product, the pricing, the purchasers, the paperwork, the policy, and the payment. This finance model, in my opinion, are very critical to be able to score and appraise the credit appropriately. You know, the challenge is this. We have a way we appraise credit before. And we are used to those ways. And you know, if I'm familiar with some of our colleagues in credit, they have a checklist. And it's based on some other things they've done in the past. You know, you really, if you don't have, I'm not just a trade finance expert. We developed this model in-house for banks in Nigeria because we realized that, look, this is a challenge we need to confront and face and fix. I export. So I've seen it all from beginning to the end. I've lost money exporting, and I've known what caused it, and I've stopped losing money in export now because I know what caused it and what could have been done differently. So what we are talking about here are years of experience, of real practical field experience with trade finance skill to help banks properly and appropriately appraise credit so that we can avoid losing money in export financing and be able to master this skill, make it commonplace among the staff, and be able to efficiently and effectively finance exporting in Nigeria. Preparation. What's my opinion on what I think the bank should be doing now in terms of preparation? What should we be doing? Number one, communication, capacity building, collaboration, commitment, cooperation, and coordination. Communication. The bank needs to communicate the program, the product. This communication is from the bank to the staff of the bank and to your customers. The program, what it's all about. The product, what can be exported. The profit, what are the benefits. The promotion, how do we reach out. The purchasers, who are the buyers and their characteristics. The paperwork, what are the documentation. The payment, how do we get paid, how do we finance. The policies of government, the procedures involved, and the people. By the people, I mean the government agency. For example, the National Action Committee, the Presidential Committee on the AfCFTA. Then the capacity. You need to build capacity for the staff in terms of product, in terms of pricing, in terms of paperwork, in terms of purchasers, in terms of payment. All this need to be done for the bank, for the staff of the bank, so that they can have the capacity to be able to ensure the bank maximize the potential. Now, you know, I discovered that to get your income and deposit from the customer, you need to create value for the customer. To create value for the customer, you need to solve their problems. The product problem, the pricing problem, the purchaser's problem, the paperwork problem, you need to solve their problem. When you solve problem for the customer, you need to be competent. To be competent, you need to be skillful. To become skillful, you need to learn. Lifelong learning. To learn, there is need for training and certification programs. I'm also of the opinion that a new career is on the horizon. I think trade is going to grow in Africa, and bankers that build up their skill in trade we have a place in the industry. Maybe you need to consider growing your skill in trade financing, growing your skill in export financing, growing your skill in managing trade transactions as much as possible because of the opportunities that AfCFTA presents for us on the African continent. Then collaboration. The bank will collaborate with organized private sector, the government, NEPC, AfroExim, AFDP, other financial institutions. Collaboration with your network in Africa. Network in Africa. There are businesses in, I know your network for Standard Bank is mainly Central Africa down to some part of East Africa and then Southern Africa, just few in West Africa. There are businesses within this country that can collaborate. And you're among the banks that are well positioned in Nigeria that can build that platform for collaboration. You know what I discovered? In the exploration of different African countries through the seminar I told you about, I discovered that one of the very common recommended market entry strategy for export in Africa is having a representative at destination. Having a representative at destination through an agent or through a distributor. And I feel your organization can build a platform to allow a collaboration that can make that happen among businesses in other parts of African countries and Nigeria. You know what, when I look at Nigerian market, they can also become a market or distributor of Nigerian products in those countries. Collaboration. Collaboration. Cooperation within the banks, from the unit that is anchoring AfCFTA to the business development unit, export desk, credit risk management, foreign and local operation. On the part of the management, commitment to finance products under AfCFTA, commitment to have a well-equipped export desk in the head office, commitment to have AfCFTA and export champion in the branches of the bank, and probably to include NSP count as part of the KPI of the staff, if possible. Coordination. We need a vision. We need a goal and a target broken down into objectives based on the different sector of the economy. And then we can formulate a strategy for each of these sectors, and that become the component of our planning, and our daily activities can be drawn on from there on. Before I close, we have a radio program. I would like to call it AfCFTA Discourse with Stanbic IBTC. We've had this relationship before. You have sponsored our radio program in the past, and we'll be requesting for your sponsorship again. We are trying to do this on radio, Nigeria Info actually, and we're really looking for a sponsor right now to be able to get it started, to be able to educate Nigeria. And of course, for me, it's an opportunity for you also to talk about what Stanbic is positioned to do for Nigerian businesses under AfCFTA. What are the profits, the benefits? Potential export customers that you need to go after for AfCFTA. Importers looking for foreign exchange. Companies looking to diversify their income in export business. Manufacturers looking for export market abroad. Established exporters looking for markets in African countries. Intending exporters looking for market for their products. State government looking to get market for their SMEs. The benefit to the bank: deposit from raw material fund, deposit from labor and production, deposit from clearing and forwarding fund, deposit from export proceed FS liquidity. Income from float income, interest income, NSP charges, and account maintenance charge of this customer. To the exporters, exporting duty-free to African country, utilization of idle and excess capacity, building immunity against impact of recession in local economy. Some businesses are having issues, they can't sell locally, but there's opportunity for sale abroad if they can just look beyond their environment. Generation of cheaper foreign exchange to fund raw materials, like I was saying about importers taking advantage of generating their own foreign exchange themselves. Reduction of non-tariff barriers to export, leading to low cost of trading on the continent an overall increase in their turnover and profitability. How about the importers? Importers also have an advantage. Importer can then import duty-free from other African countries. Product they're already importing from other outside Africa, they probably be able to get it cheaper from African country right now. Cheaper source of sourcing forex for importers of raw materials. Who export the manufactured goods to other African countries? They import their raw material from Africa and export the manufactured goods to African countries. Reduce costs with backward integration via reworking of their supply chain. Reducing cash conversion cycle because of the tendency towards short transit time on the continent. Importing at a cheaper rate when compared to other countries outside Africa, and increase competitiveness because of the low cost of importation. Before I close, remember I told you about the AfCFTA free seminar. If you're on Telegram and you go to the Telegram channel, African Business Export Professional, if you search for that on, let me check, I think it's African Business Export Professional on Telegram channel. Yeah, African Export Business Platform. African Export Business Platform. If you search for that on Telegram, you can easily get access to the previous episode and, of course, get the link for each of the days. We'll be having it by 5 p.m. today. And today we are exploring that market, Morocco, for about 1 hour. We have a couple of training programs that might be of interest to the band. We have export training program developing effective underwriting model for export financing, structuring and selling export finance products and services, managing and monitoring export business financing, fundamental principle of export of financing agri and mineral export, marketing, managing and multiplying export trade customers. We also have some training on AfCFTA maximizing, AfCFTA maximization, strategic planning and framework for bankers, leveraging on AfCFTA to grow export proceeds, AfCFTA maximizing potential of African market, AfCFTA exploring exportable products, and importing from African countries under AfCFTA. Also, we have certification program. The American Chartered Trade Specialists have Certified Basic Intermediate Program, Certificate in Trade Customer Service, Certified Intermediate Trade Professional, Certified Advanced Trade Professional, Certified Trade Logistics and Supply Chain Management, Certified Specialist in Trade Finance, Executive Diploma in Export Business Management, and Executive Diploma in Export Trade Finance. And this gives 100 points that can make you to become a American Chartered Trade Specialist. As we close, I would like to say to everyone that if you want to diversify our economy, if you want to create more trade in Africa, if you want to grow our GDP, if you want to create employment, if you want to boost our foreign reserve, if you want to increase wealth and reduce poverty on the African continent, aggressive drive toward international trade is the way to go. Thank you very much.
Wow. I say thank you so very much, Dele, and I must say that you deserve that glass or that sip of water, having been speaking for the last I would say like 75 minutes thereabout. Thank you so very much for the insights, the thought-provoking perspectives and just full disclaimer. And again, you're in the industry anyways. A lot of the things you spoke about touched on nerves around some of the things we're thinking of and areas we have also struggled. So it was really good to hear you, provoke some thoughts around export. And I hope to see some questions come in that regard. But at this point, we do have a couple of questions and we'll be taking those. I also want to ask if you rather want to take your question in terms of voice your question as against put it in the chat. I see like
whichever one is fine.
Yeah, no, sure, definitely. So I'm just encouraging our audience or my colleagues to feel free to use the raise hand icon on Teams to raise your hand, and I'm also going to recognize you. But thanks again, Dele. I think there are three things that jumped out from the conversation or the thoughts you shared, and I think one is to be brutally, should I say, direct, that export is how we win. That looking at the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement or area, it's really about how do we build capacity and support export, and that's how we win with this and with our clients. I think that's the first thing. I think the second thing, which I framed differently, is, and as you were saying it, that was the thought that was running through my mind. This whole concept of buy Nigeria shouldn't just be shouldn't be looked at or viewed from an import lens. Buy Nigeria actually should be looked at from an export lens, to say that how do we sell Nigeria? So it's about, one, not just agricultural commodity products, but it's about value addition in relation to that and making them exportable, making the world buy Nigeria, not just saying that Nigerians should buy Nigeria for Nigeria. I think that's the second thing that kind of jumped out of me. And the last one was, which is aligned with our strategy as a bank, and more importantly, in terms of our view of the future. So at the end of the day, it's not just about banking the client or selling products to the client. It's about creating value. And you use the phrase around how we only create value to clients when we solve clients' problems or their pain points. So it's really about realizing where it pains the client, and our value to the client is derived from that. And I'm happy you touched on some of the great work. Just, I think a couple of weeks ago, we did have another SME seminar where we do have these thought leadership events to the market, to clients, to give them a sense of how we can partner with them, not just in terms of financing, because financing is important, but oftentimes it's not just financing. So I'll go to the questions now. I'll read them out. I too have the first two questions from Inwang. I would happy to read them out for you, then you can take that. So the first one is around the tariffs, and you spoke, and I think that was the point you were talking about, the rules of origin, and how in terms of value addition, 60% of components into the final output or product needs to be from the continent. So his question is, where the tariff head changes but fails to meet the 60% local sourcing in raw materials, would that still satisfy the AfCFTA eligibility criteria? And I think what you should add to that, if I can add an addendum to that, is where are we on the rules of origin? The conversation in the auto sector has been 40% in terms of rule of origin. Have we landed that from an ECOWAS standpoint, or where are we? So can you just take those two together? Thanks.
Now, the two, we are mixing two of the criteria together. Wholly produced, when you say a good is wholly produced in Africa, that means 60% of the raw material is sourced from Africa. Now, if you are going to source your raw material from outside Africa, maybe it's an intermediate product you are bringing in, and you are going to be processing it. The processing you are doing, is it changing the tariff heading? And I gave an example of the wood to furniture, or orange juice, or orange concentrate to orange juice. So you are either processing, or so when you are doing processing, you are bringing in something that have been processed to some level, like an intermediate product. You are just coming to Nigeria to process it further to finished product. But wholly produced, the raw material is what you're actually importing, the raw itself, and you're like importing cocoa, for example. If I want to produce chocolate, I'm importing cocoa from Africa, not importing cocoa from outside Africa. For the people importing wheat, they're importing wheat, that's the raw materials itself, they're importing from outside Africa. So there are two different things. In terms of the auto you talk about, I really am not sure of where we are, but I'm of the opinion that it looks to me that we might be able to achieve it with auto, because, I mean, auto would most likely be low because we are not doing a lot in terms of production of those parts. But what Africa wants to do is to ensure that at least if we can produce car right now, let's begin to assemble, produce part of it here and assemble a good chunk of it here. But the rule of origin have been negotiated. If you check the National Action Committee website, AfCFTA, just AfCFTA National Action Committee, they have a website. You can download the detail of rule of origin on that website. So it's a very bulky document. You probably be able to get information you need from there on rule of origin. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Dele. The second question from Iwang is around prohibitions or limits on government subsidies. So this question is, are there any prohibitions or limits on government subsidies to boost competitiveness of exports to the advantage of one country over others? And I think that's important because you talked about the...
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just making the point that you had mentioned during your presentation that there have been several export initiatives to drive export from Nigeria, and the recent one being the 50 billion naira. And I would like even to hear what progress has been made in that regard, because I know it's targeted towards SMEs.
Not just SME.
I guess it's
not just SME. Towards
yeah,
export,
I know,
but particularly
I'm making the point that
SME, but export in general.
Yeah, so I'm just making the point that the whole target of the drive is towards SME, which is an area that has been underserved from a financing standpoint.
Yeah.
So the question really is, are there prohibitions or limitations on government subsidies to boost competitiveness, especially with respect to export under the agreement?
WTO, so we won't be able to violate the national, the most favored nation clause, which does not allow you to favor your people or some nation over and above other or national treatment. The support the government is giving is to, there is a big challenge with infrastructural deficit. So that's increasing the cost of doing business. So what government is doing is to support the businesses to be able to ameliorate the challenge of infrastructural deficit. So not like the kind of subsidy that WTO frown at, like US, for example. Sometimes EU will take them to WTO because they are giving subsidy to their farmers so that they will pay tax, so that they can sell at a cheaper rate to EU. Not that kind of subsidy that we're talking about, but something to help to ameliorate the challenge of infrastructural subsidy challenges. In terms of the 50 billion, like I said, at least I'm aware of a chunk of it that is going to be used. They call it Export Development Fund, to support SME to buy machineries, to fund certification, to fund a number of things, market access. There were 3,000 people applied, 2,000 eventually were chosen. I reviewed over 100 among these enablers that NPC put together to review. So I'm aware they are working on that. And soon, maybe in another 1 or 2 months, those people should get the funding required to be able to do those things that they need to do. And the same for a number of other segments. They are trying to build warehouses, certification program, different support to help exporters, just to ensure that we maximize the potential of AfCFTA.
Yeah, thank you. There's a comment from Debola Seriki, and I guess this is in relation to your comment around the port in Kebbi State. He said he assumes you meant Barrow River Port in Niger State.
No, I can't remember the name, but it's somewhere in Kogi. I can't remember the name of that location, but it's somewhere in Kogi because it's around the lower Niger area, but not far from Lokoja, where this particular is. I understand it's a port that colonial master were using that have been abandoned, that they're trying to revitalize now to be able to use for this purpose of for the Sea Link project to pick up goods from the north.
Okay, thanks. So I guess we will try to find out. I'll try to get the details and share that back to the forum. There's another question here from Inwang. I'm struggling to get the context. The question is, please share some insights on payment and currencies. That is, will payment be in local currencies or USD? So I suppose the question is around the Continental agreement and whether yes. And I don't know whether you want to touch on, and I don't know how much of that you're involved in, the PAPS initiative.
What I know about it is there is a Pan-African payment system being developed, championed by AfCFTA with central banks in Africa. As of last year, November, CBN Nigeria told us they've done the UAT test for the application as of last year. People can still trade in dollar if they so choose, but for countries that won't have enough FX, they can trade in their local currency. And there will be settlement among the CBN of those countries. So payment can be done in dollars. For those that don't have enough FX, they can still trade but it will be in the local currency. And the payment system platform is already being developed. I don't know if it's completed now, but definitely it's not going to be. The idea is they don't want us to be trading in FX, actually. If you choose to, that's fine, but the idea is to ultimately maybe we have our own Afro or whatever name we call it.
Echo. There has been a lot of conversation around Echo. Yeah. No, just to the point around PAPs, and for those who may not know, AfCFTA's Standard Bank apparently is a shareholder in AfCFTA, and we do partner with AfCFTA along several initiatives. In terms of PAPs specifically, we had been in conversations with them, and we're looking to be one of the pilot banks. The conversations are still ongoing. I think to your point, which is the important takeaway, the idea of PAPs is to provide an alternative to foreign currency denominated trade within the continent. And that's largely driven by concerns around the delay, number one, it takes. When you send funds, you're trying to make payment to a correspondent bank and what have you. You're looking at somewhere between 2 to 5 days. With PAPs is almost going to work like, for those who know, it's going to work like NEFT settlement, where payment would happen while settlement happens through a centralized clearing process on a daily basis. I think the second point is also in terms of the cost itself. The correspondent charges or correspondent bank charges on cross-border payments or settlements are significant, and in some instances punitive for small businesses where they're actually settling in foreign currency. So the whole idea of PAPs is to save on time and also save on cost for SMEs and African or continental players who are looking to trade amongst themselves on the continent. So I have another question here from Debola, who says, do you know if there are any blockchain initiatives to facilitate Africa trade under the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement in the future? So if you just want to take that with other innovative considerations that are being driven, especially when you talk about the certificate of origin. Currently, it's issued in paper form. How much of that is going to move to digital forms? Digital bill of ladings, for instance, has been another topical issue. In Nigeria today, we're still driving physical bill of lading, even at the height of COVID, when DHL and some other delivery services couldn't come or fly into the country or some other countries. The CBN still did not give dispensation for electronic bill of lading. So how do you see blockchain initiatives on one side, but more broadly digital initiatives or innovative initiatives that would enhance and enable the continental free trade area?
The way I see it is we can't isolate African trade from the trade in the world. COVID have taught the trade community a big lesson that if there is a time to digitalize trade, that time is now. COVID have taught us that lesson already. The first trade, fully digitalized trade, was done December between New Zealand and China by HSBC, fully on blockchain technology. And that is increasing now to other parts of the world. So what I see happen is by the time this technology becomes full-blown, Africa does not have a choice. All we will need to do is to key into it and be able to do it in Africa. But within Africa, I'm not sure any of such initiative is going on. But in the world in general, declaration of trade is going on. And that is something, you know, the way this thing works is when the time comes, CBN will not have a choice. CBN will not have a choice. Everybody will have to key into it. But because it's still not very much, I mean, I got a mail from CMA CGM recently asking me that they now have option of electronic bill of lading if I so desire. That means some other country are already doing it. And look, instead of paper bill of lading, let's do electronic bill of lading. Because many people have to use tenant release. So now they are doing electronic bill of lading. So they're telling me I have the option of coming to pay for the paper or the electronic, depending on the country. So I have to confirm for my buyer if the country allow it, so I can use it. So shipping line already taking that initiative already, because like I said, COVID have fast-tracked all these things, and that initiative, I see it getting into Africa very soon. By the time we begin to do the trade, actually.
Okay, thanks. So effectively, there's none yet on the continent, but Clearly, given the global trends, there are initiatives, blockchain initiatives that are happening, and as it's a matter of time, we will definitely play catch up in terms of on the continent. Adewale Adekoya has a question. What are the modalities for service export under AfCFTA?
Okay, sorry, I didn't talk a lot about service export. Like your bank is already exporting services already, but the challenge that banks that have expanded to other African countries face now will be reduced significantly because of what is about to happen under the AfCFTA. Business support services, financial services, transport services are major part of the technology, information technology, are major part of services that have been driven. Now we're not looking at the 12 category of services that WTO categorized. We're looking at just about, I think about 5 or 6 that we're driving under the negotiation right now. Like I said, some banks already take initiative by being other countries, but now maybe other banks will be able to find it a lot easier to do. But what we need to do is also encourage our businesses, consultants, management consultants, IT, technology people, and educating them on how they can really maximize the opportunity and be able to also go to other African countries and expand their services. What I think is a challenge that maybe you probably will also push to CBN. We've been talking to CBN on this. They said they are working on it, but I've not seen the result. They are Nigerian export proceed form for services. Nigerian export proceed form. They're working on NSPS, Nigerian export for services, so that when I'm exporting services, we can document it. Clear, so we can also have detail of the services.
Hello, Dilly.
Then that will help us in the export of services.
Okay, Dele, we missed the last couple of comments from you. I think you're frozen, if you can hear me.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. So we missed like
CBN is working on an NSP for documentation of service. Also confirm from them how far they have gone with that, and that documentation will probably be necessary to help in driving and be able to have a structure around the way service export from the country is reported.
Okay, thanks. There's a comment from Ojinika Shote. She says, "Thank you, Dele. The best AfCFTA session I've attended so far. Very insightful, easy to understand and follow." Yeah, thanks for the feedback, Ojinika. Imo Umar says, "Thanks, Dele. Is there any collective effort by sovereigns to provide the transportation infrastructure like rail, road, port, etc., to facilitate movement of goods and services within Africa?" Again, I realize I realize you didn't talk a lot about the non-tariff barriers and what governments are doing in that regard, but if you want to just take that also.
There is this PIDA initiative that have always been there. It's a project for infrastructure development in Africa. And road, rail, and airport are major part of it. So the concern has been, why should I invest in those initiatives and projects when who are those that will use it? So if we liberalize trade, each movement of person and goods on the continent, investor can then approach AfDB and other funders around the world to build those infrastructure. So that's why it's like, look, let's start AfCFTA so investor can see the opportunity and then work towards building this infrastructure, which have been planned. All the road that need to be built, the rail that need to be built, all those projects are already in the works in terms of information about how to go about them, what you need to do, and the impact. But they've not been done fully because the investors are asking, how do I recoup my investment? Now that we envisage increase in trade, increase in movement of goods and person, it's expected that those investments are going to begin to happen. I mentioned one of the issues also on the challenge of non-tariff barrier about the fact that C-Link project, which has always been on even before AfCFTA came into being, also is in the works. And of course, what the government is doing to support export businesses in the country.
Okay, thanks. Sean, I see you on video. I don't know whether you want to ask a question or you accidentally came on video. But okay, I think you did, yeah. So I've got one question from. Okay, let me take. I see Inena's hand up, but I'll take you, Inena, just after this question from Bola. So Bola Tito Ajibode's question is: in the spirit of buying Africa in Africa, is there a data bank where importers of goods outside Africa can access and place their orders from fellow African manufacturers?
Where importers of goods outside Africa can buy from Africa. I know a couple of initiatives, but they've not been very successful. Initiative platform being developed to be able to get businesses in Africa to register. There are a lot of initiatives around that, even from Nigeria, but the funding required to do enough campaign to get businesses on that platform, I guess, are not available to those businesses. So I'm really not aware of such platform right now that really is viable enough for business from outside Africa too. But there are a lot of initiatives to see how to get Africans to do business with Africans, both by some government of some countries and of course some private sector initiatives.
Yeah, but on that point, Dele, do you want to expand a bit more on some of the work AfCFTA? Yeah, it might not be a platform where people can actually place orders or buy, but there are two parts of our question. I think there's a data bank part of the question, which is access to information or data around which countries manufacture what and what you can get from which of. So I know Tralac is doing a lot of work in that regards. I know AfCFTA with their platform, and I'll leave you to speak to the AfCFTA platform and how you can get data. So yes, you might not be able to access or place orders, but even to get the data to understand what are the potentials in a particular market, what are the substitute locations you can get your export from.
I really have not explored. I don't know if AfCFTA have the kind of data I will recommend to be considered. ITC have a platform that I think is very robust to be able to give information about what does so and so country buy, what does so and so country export, and where do they export to. ITC, International Trade Center, have a platform, and that's what I use most of the time for that kind of data. I've read a lot of reports of AfCFTA, but I've not come across that kind of platform they have. I would really want to, if you have access to such. But I would recommend the International Trade Center platform for trade. They call it trademark, to be able to see how trade is done from one country to the other and what they buy, what they sell, and the like.
Okay, it's actually the trademark I was talking about, which AfCFTA partnered with ITC on. Which AfCFTA partnered with ITC on, yeah.
Okay.
Inena, please, you can unmute yourself and ask your question. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks, Jesse and thanks, Dele. You're quite a passionate speaker. Well done. That was fantastic. Yeah. Given the significant disruption to the way FMCG companies and MNCs operate, including what you said about the rework in their supply chain, what sort of feedback have you heard from them? What are their concerns? What do they see as potential challenges? Because I know you've spoken to us about how, as FIs, we should look at this, but from their view, from their perspective, what sort of concerns have they expressed about, what these changes are likely to mean for the way they operate today, the way their global supply chains are structured, and the way they are financed as well? Thank you.
Two major issues it raised. One is the quality of the raw material produced on the continent might not meet the quality they require to produce their product. Second is, if they are going to set up those kind of structure, they will need funding. So a government support, probably at the African level or at the national level, might be required to help them set up those kind of infrastructure. So mainly funding to rework their supply chain. Some are concerned about the fact that, look, they are not sure any African, like wheat. I've heard of the lack of flour mill talk about the fact that they are not sure they can get the quality of wheat they are getting from North and South America from African countries. Those are the concerns a number of them have raised.
Thank you.
All right.
And if I stretch that a bit, and it's good you talked about quality of products from substitute locations on the continent. Is there a framework or is there a plan to, within either the RECs, the regional economic communities, or the broader AfCFTA initiative, to ensure standardization, quality is up to par, and ultimately products made or produced on the continent are internationally competitive? Because ultimately that might be where we win.
Now, when you talk about quality, quality, I produce a product, this is the quality I've chosen. Does not mean I can't use a low quality, but because of what I want to achieve, this is the minimum quality I want. Now, the lower quality also can be used maybe for some other things or for some other people, depending on the market also they are targeting. So when they talk about quality, in the AfCFTA, there is this idea around sanitary and phytosanitary measures, which basically revolve around quality of agri product. Basically around quality of agri product. The plan is to harmonize it so that if I produce based on social specification in Nigeria, Kenya will buy from me. So there's a framework around that within the agreement, because that's one of the non-tariff barriers, of course, that might hinder buying the product in another country. But so if they do this sanitary measure, it doesn't prevent the fact that I might still want some other specification in my product, which does not make other product bad, but for what I want to do, this is what I want. And that's probably, or sometimes variant. Like I think they mentioned the variants of the wheat grown in Africa. These are the one grown in other parts of the world where they buy from. So it might not necessarily be that the quality is low, is that, and then sometimes they also concern about the capacity, which is where their own investment will come in, which they will need funding to achieve.
Okay, yeah, and I agree with you. I hear you on the point around there are premium brands, there's a quality for every target market, as it were. But ultimately, especially where you're currently sourcing your products to certain specs or certain specification or standards, and you're looking to consider, substitute locations on the continent, you would at least want that standard to be met. And you use wheat as a very good example, yes.
Yeah.
Which is the point around North or South American wheat versus Russian wheat or wheat on the continent, which determines the final output of the product, whether you're doing aggregate bread or you're doing fine biscuits. Yeah, so depending on where you play. I have a comment. I can see you at your Deji or Belawo. I'll take you just now. I just want to take a comment and a question here. Ajibole says, thanks you. It's critical for us to have a data bank to know goods produced and countries of production. Absolutely. So what I'll do is I'll share, subsequent to this, I'll share the link to the ITC site, which is very rich in terms of data or information of the top items, HS codes. In fact, it listed line by line HS codes in terms of the items that are produced per country. Very rich source. And it's not just about on Africa, it also provides for countries around the world. Umar says, is there any regime or plans to facilitate free movement of people within Africa in the horizon of AfCFTA? And again, I know you talked about trade, you talked about services.
When the AfCFTA, when AfCFTA was being signed, there was a protocol on free movement of persons that many African countries have signed. Many African countries, some few countries have not signed, but currently in Africa, a number of African countries have signed to that protocol on free movement of persons, because the idea is, if I'm going to do export of services, a number of them involve me going to those countries to be able to render the service. So that's part of the arrangement to improve, get many countries to sign those agreements that will make Africans to go, just pick your passport, go to any African country, maybe to be able to stay there for 30 days. If you don't want to stay more, then you can now perfect your paper to be able to become a resident or whatever it is that you want to do there.
Okay, thank you. I'll take up Bella now. You can unmute yourself, please, and ask your question.
Okay, thank you, Josephine. Thank you, the presenter. That was a very passionate presentation, and it seems that's what you breathe in and out. Thank you very much. Okay, how upbeat are we concerning this after this thing? Because we've seen agreement being signed in the past. You mentioned AGOA. That was how everybody was very positive about on AGOA. There wasn't too much significant. There wasn't any significant mileage gained on the part of AGOA. At the same time, I can also recall it when ECOWAS, the free trade agreement between ECOWAS was also coming up. There was a lot of enthusiasm concerning the ECOWAS free trade agreement too. But along the way, we saw the Francophone countries, maybe because of the fear of Nigeria or because of their I don't know what will I call it now, is it allegiance or relationship with their colonial country? That's France. Yeah, I don't want to use colonial master. Let me say colonial country. France. We've seen them sabotaging the ECOWAS as a group and also sabotaging Nigeria one way or the other. How will AfCFTA be able to control all this that we eventually lead to mistrust and will not ensure that this whole agreement will go down will go south again without achieving much, despite all the enthusiasm and the.
Hello, Sheon, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes, I can.
Okay,
I guess
I pretty much get
the meat of his question.
Surrounding this, thank you.
All right. Now, on AGOA, my opinion on AGOA is that AGOA presents a great opportunity to Nigeria, but what Nigeria exports, majority of them are not what Americans will be buying or will like to buy. Sometimes in terms of their quality and standard, but the same product that we are not able to ship to America, we're able to sell it within the African continent, which is why AfCFTA gives us a great opportunity, that there are a number of things that we share in common in Africa that we'll be able to sell in Africa. A free trade agreement generally in the world is as successful as the level of information available to business people. Like I said, that even the initiative of doing this seminar, we've done this now. We have about 119, is it 190 or 120 now on this platform? We've done this for over 4,000 bankers in Nigeria across many banks since the beginning of the year. And the reason why we did that necessary is my MSc thesis was on ETLS. And what I was trying to find out is, why are we not enjoying, why are we not able to enjoy the benefit? What are the factors militating against it? And what did that came out both from literature reviewed and even the interview had with business people is mainly information about it. Many are not aware. Those are aware are not aware of how to go about it. So they are either not aware or not aware of how to go about it. So I strongly believe if we increase the awareness, I used to use this example that in Nigeria, either governorship candidate or presidential candidate, you can't miss the candidate. Why is it that you can't miss the candidate? The advert is massive. Sincerely, I strongly believe that's the kind of advert noise we need to make about AfCFTA, any free trade agreement. If people are not aware, there are businesses in Nigeria who have potential to export They don't even think of it at all because they are comfortable, they are okay. Nobody's talking to them about it. It's when they have effects that is dawning on some people that look, when they have issue with effect, that why can't I get this effect? Why do I have to queue up with CBN? Now, regarding the allegiance to France and issue sabotaging others, one of the reasons why, and this is one of the few trade agreements in the world that have that protocol on dispute resolution. The panel that will be sitting on this trade agreement was instituted in April. So now we have a panel, both the first level and the appellate body, that will sit. So if I have issue with a country, if a business have issue, it will report to the government. The government will take the other country to the dispute. So we've all signed this agreement, then we should all agree to it. So I strongly believe that we can minimize those issues where a country is sabotaging the other with this dispute mechanism where we can meet and discuss the real issue and find a way to resolve it amicably among ourselves. So that's one of the reasons why the dispute mechanism was inside that agreement, so that we don't have this kind of issue where one country is like sabotaging the other, and we can sit on a round table and look at ourselves in the face and fix our issues so that we can make it work, actually.
You know, I agree, and again, thanks, Dele. If I may add to that, I'm glad you touched on the protocol on dispute resolution, which is one of the first that have been put in place and resolved. And why that was important for most people was we came off, and I say we Nigeria now, came off the whole border closure scenario, where the view was that in spite of the ECOWAS trade liberalization scheme and the ECOWAS underlying agreements that we do have in place, we shouldn't be doing that. But clearly, we had a sovereign interest to protect, and as such, we had to go that route. I think that's the first point. The second point for me is, if there's one thing I took away from 2020, or the year of the pandemic, as we call it, is the fact that all countries that signed on to the agreement remain committed to it. And that is itself a positive trend, that in spite of the macroeconomic shift or global shift, and more importantly, economic burdens for individual African states, all countries that signed on to the agreement remain, one, committed to it, and two, we're in a scenario, we've moved into a scenario where conversations are now going with respect to how do we begin to operationalize. So people may have pulled out because 2020 was a year to remind people that maybe you needed to protect or you needed to go protectionist, one. Two is the agreement represents, after, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dele, it represents the fastest free trade agreement that has been ever executed or signed or ratified. And that itself, correct, given the number of people, yes, given the number of countries involved, yeah. So given that itself also gives a ray of hope. Yes, there's a lot that's still to be seen, but it gives a ray of hope, I think, in terms of the political will and commitment to seeing it through. I think I'll take a last question before we wrap up, and that's from Debola Seriki. I wanted to ask whether Tunde Akindele or Ayo Joshipe did have comments to make or to pass. So if you do, I'll take you after this question. I'm happy to take your comments before we wrap up. But the last question here is from Debola Seriki, and the question is, do you think the introduction of a subsidy similar to the export expansion grant for African trade transactions would encourage Nigerian exports?
I think so, but I'm not sure there will be a separate subsidy for Nigerian exports. I'm not sure. Sorry, Nigerian export to under AfCFTA, because the subsidy is for export in general. So if you are doing export, you enjoy the benefit anyway, even though you are doing it to other parts of the world. Even though now we're encouraging people, but I've not seen it. I'm not sure if any of that will come up. I'm not sure, but I've not seen any. But I think if it's done, really, it might be an incentive really to encourage people to want to consider African market, which I think needs to be done really, because I feel we can do a lot within Africa if we really concentrate on trade in Africa. It's a lot of market, it's a lot of opportunity that we'll take advantage of if we really get serious with it.
Okay, Thanks, Dele. And I guess that's all we'll take in terms of questions. But if there are still questions, please feel free to send them through to me. My email, or my name is my email, my first name dot surname and at @StamicIVTC, as you all well know. And I'll be happy to provide a detailed feedback or response to the question. I just wanted to check whether Ayo or Tunde would want, and why I'm calling on Ayo, they cover or they oversee our SME segment and relationship banking on the corporate, or what I can call the commercial banking side for Dele's benefit. The tier just below the large local corporates or multinationals, as you might want to know them, and whether they have, especially on some of the provoking thoughts you have shared on export, whether they do have comments. Dele, Tunde, I'm sorry, Ayo, Tunde, any comments from your side?
Thanks, Jesushon. No comments at this point in time. I follow Dele a lot. We've done quite a few things over the years, and I'm very in tune with a lot of his seminars. Thank you.
Thank you, Tunde.
All right.
Ayo?
Thanks, Jesushon. And Dele, thanks so much for the excellent insights that you've given us today. Quite interesting points you've made. And I think SMEs really do have a lot to benefit from AfCFTA, and we're now better equipped to engage them. And as you were talking, I was also taking notes on, because we do have a lot of webinars for SMEs, right? And it would be good to infuse some of those points, or maybe a session for AfCFTA going forward. So we'll do that, and we'll also reach out to you on a couple of engagements just to take this further. Yeah. So thank you very much.
All right.
Thanks
Thank
very
you.
much. Thanks, Ayo. Yeah. So on that note, I want to say a big thank you to everyone. I just saw Eric's note now. They need to drop off for a country call. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Wale, for your time and for your support on this journey. And to all our colleagues, I want to say a big thank you for your time and an incredible session. I suppose the exchanges we've had are rich and meaningful, and I hope that we are all more well informed, as I am, about the Africa Continental Free Trade area. And I trust that we are beginning to appreciate, the benefits it brings, and more importantly, how we can leverage this to unlock opportunities with our clients. So, Dele, thank you also very much. We truly enjoyed your delivery, your passion, your insights, and the wealth of knowledge you've displayed, and for making this session really worth our while. And I want to say, have a good afternoon, everyone, and enjoy the rest of the day.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dele. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Well
Jesse
done,
Shem.
Jesse Shem.
Thank you for keeping to time as well.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Thanks.